The Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association is sounding the alarm. It sent a letter to the U.S. Department of Agriculture asking Secretary Brooke Rollins to immediately release funding for the Dairy Business Innovation Initiatives. The program froze this week, and the stoppage of nearly $29 million stands to impact about 420 dairy businesses nationwide. Hidden Springs Creamery in Westby is one of them. On the farm, Travis Forgs manages 80 acres and milks 300 sheep for their farmstead cheese. Before the federal government froze the money, the Dairy Business Innovation Alliance was supposed to be a tool for Travis to supplement his own investments in growing the farm and creamery.
The Dairy Business Innovation Alliance and the four different groups that are out there, DBIAs, working across the country, there's been a tremendous amount of positive support that we heard about. And it's not just, for cheesemakers, it's for anyone that's looking to enhance dairy business across the country. And so we heard about it. My wife worked with the Dairy Business Alliance to go through a very rigorous process of applying. And it's not it's not just this box of money. Not only do you need to apply, you need to, show what you're doing, what you're investing, and how you're going to grow the business and how it's going to affect the community. So, are you generating more business? What's going to happen with the money that is being put in from the Alliance, as well as are you invested in? What are you putting in there? And so there was a lot of collaboration and work to really, make sure that we had a healthy, positive program that could be successful. And so, and we've looked at, there's been numerous different programs. We're also get a solar array, which is not about this conversation, but I'm also frozen with the solar project, which we invested in and put in. So, I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. There's a lot of things that the government was looking to enhance rural agriculture. So we took advantage of the programs that were there and made decisions on this farm. When you talk about growth, made decisions on this farm based on contracts we signed in part with just our own money, but also in collaboration with the government.
On the DBIA grant, the Dairy Business Grant that you were approved for, I'll say, how much was it and what were you going to use it for?
This particular grant, it was a little bit over $90,000. And it was approved to put in a really large, for us, now, of course, everything's perspective, right, because this is a small dairy, but a big walk-in freezer. So that freezer is for our driftless products, which is a soft cheese that we're making that's been growing pretty substantially. We're actually headed into Whole Foods sometime this month with some of these flavors. So we can actually freeze this cheese, then, have it available for Whole Foods and others in a bigger quantity. The program itself, when you say I was approved, we were approved, and the way these programs work, they pay for certain things, they don't pay for other things like the building, which is on us, but we also have to pay for it all up front before you get reimbursed. So they're pouring it as we speak. The process of this going on has me now responsible for the $90,000 that I was in the business plan planning on being paid back for. So I have, on top of the spend of everything else we're doing to make this work, we are now right now, which I just have a very hard time believing the federal government is going to default on its own agreements long term. But it is a shocking situation when out of the blue in one day we get a phone call, I'm getting poured. The concrete is pouring for projects that we've been approved on that they're not going to pay, that they're freezing the funds.
What do you do? Do you call the bank and ask for patience or forgive? What do you do?
Right. There's no forgiveness. First off, I think everyone's in their own situations. I was on the call yesterday. First and foremost, the Dairy Business Innovation Alliance and the people working there are distraught with all these programs and all these farmers that are left high and dry. So they had phone calls yesterday. I was on one of those, a lot of tears going from not just farmers, but staff, and fear of what's going to happen to the businesses that are now on the hook. For us, we called, I'm in close connection with my bank, so we will, work through what we need to work through, but it really can be crippling for a business. I think it's really important as people hear about these kind of programs, if we don't believe that these programs are a good way to spend money in the future, which I'm going to argue it's a really good way to generate community and income, because, we've been able to hire more people. We're bringing on another farmer to ship us milk. All those things are based on the programs that we built and we're spending on. But if we decide we don't want to do that, that's one thing. When you make promises to people, and I don't mean like a handshake, I mean a contract, and then you just say no, you're really, really messing with a whole lot of good people that were doing this with believing that the government wouldn't default on them. I have faith that common sense is going to come through here instead of just craziness. At some point, we're going to have some common sense that if you want to make changes to programs, you surely can moving forward, but you don't just cut people off at the knees. So I have some faith there. But then there's the bottom line of how you're going to pay for this stuff. And then for folks like me, where you're compounded, because I have more than one of these going at once, because I was doing a different program with the feds on the solar project, and they're not paying that either. So really important that you're in a good financial position and that you've been working with your bank. And thank goodness we're in those positions. We have a really good relationship with Compeer, who is our financer, and I feel like we're in a good place. But this, it's not right. It's just not right. And it shouldn't be the burden of individual farmers or small business owners to try to figure out what to do when the federal government is just in this kind of disarray.
Travis Forbes, along with us from Hidden Springs Creamery in Westby. He's one of 420 dairy businesses across the nation dealing with a funding freeze from the Dairy Business Innovation Initiatives. Right now, he's on the hook for $90,000, but he's hopeful the federal government won't default on the contract. He is unsure how long it will take. The Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association is asking for the funds to be released immediately. As we heard from Travis, it's not the only government contract that's frozen. He also has a loan through the REAP program for his solar array that came online in January, but now that money isn't there either. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Stephanie Hoff.